Hello students, today we are going to see this new chapter which is Introduction to Hypertext Preprocessor. So hypertext preprocessor, hypertext means you have already learned it. It is the the hypertext markup language, okay, the textual language which is processed in internet, okay. So in this chapter we are going to see this hypertext preprocessor, okay. So before uploading your HTML file into internet, you will be processing it with some scripting language or some software, okay. So this kind of things will be seen in this chapter. So first, learning objectives, you can see that to understand the importance of web application. In this chapter we'll be seeing what is web application and what is the importance of web application. To know the server side scripting language, okay. So server side scripting language, so you can understand that your client side scripting will request some service from the server, and the server will respond to that request and deliver you the service, okay. So all this is done by a scripting program, okay. To know the features of PHP, hypertext preprocessor, to know the basics of web development process, to understand web services installation and configuration, okay. So web development, you'll be learning what is web development and what is the process in web development, and you'll be uh, knowing about web services software installation and configuration. So now we'll get into the topic. So introductions to hypertext preprocessor. So PHP is a is a coding language that is mostly used in web development or web application. So before Python was introduced, PHP was mostly used in all the web application, okay. So you can see that internet and web-based online applications are performing very important role in business and entertainment industry. 2 decades back, a famous quote by Bill Gates was said, if your business establishment is not on the internet, which means online basis, then your business will be out of business context. So if your business is not online, okay, your business is not foundable on internet, then your business is out of the market. So the web-based internet application ensures the success of critical business in real-world competition. The legacy the legacy programming language doesn't meet out the expectation of latest internet concepts and execution. Okay, the oldest programming language like HTML, JavaScript, and these are all doesn't provide the necessary requirements to bring your business successful. So, but PHP will provide you tools to improve your businesses by using online methods. So, in the early 1990s, British scientist Tim Berners-Lee introduced the concept of internet and www. The concept requires a new set of programming over the network communication. This programming language are recently called as web scripting language. The web scripting language has many policies which is easy to handle and solve the critical business problems around the world. In later 1990s, um, many web server languages are introduced to support the internet online business. PHP is one of the most widely used and recognizable technology in use on the internet. Originally, PHP and stood for PHP stood for personal home page. Personal home page. The full form for PHP is personal home page. Through more recent, it has been changed to hypertext preprocessor. However, no matter what it is called, PHP is a fundamental part of dynamic web page. So we have already seen what is dynamic web page in the previous year itself. So static web page and dynamic web page, we have seen different types of web pages in last year itself. So PHP hypertext preprocessor is one of the important server-side web and general purpose scripting language. So the PHP is also act as a server-side scripting language and general purpose scripting language. So invented by Rasmus Lerndorf in 1994. It is very simple and lightweight open source server-side scripting language. It can easily embed with HTML and other client-side scripting languages like CSS, cascaded style sheets. We have seen in the previous year itself what is CSS and what is HTML. So and JavaScript. Even JavaScript also embedded with PHP will perform a great client-side scripting language or even server-side scripting language. It also creates dynamic interactive web page in the real-time web development project. It is a comparatively and alternative competitor and alternative for other server-side scripting language like Microsoft ESP Active Server Page, which means that Active Server Page and JSP Java Server Pages. Recent statistics of server-side scripting languages using depicted that 78.9% of websites are developed by PHP scripting language. So here you can see that there are so many other scripting languages like PHP, ASP.NET, Java, static files, Ruby on Rails, Scala, Python, JavaScript, Coldfuse, Perl, language. So these are all the different languages that are used, but here you can see that PHP is the most widely used server-side scripting language or general purpose scripting language. Various server-side programming languages, global usage statistics. So here you can see that globally which language is used. So we are going to see the statistics. So PHP scripting language can be executed by an interpreter which is installed in the web server or CGI, Common Gateway Interface. So this program should be installed in server or in the Common Gateway Interface, so that this PHP will get the code and execute and tell you the results. So the most of the web servers such as Apache Tomcat, Microsoft IaaS, Internet Information Service Server supports PHP interpreter model. So refer figure 4.1 for figure 4.1. Here you can see that for the statistics. Okay. So PHP is an open source community development initiative. Okay. So the PHP is a open source, which means that you can use it freely, okay, without any license agreement or payment process. So it has many versions to ensure quality and ease of web development activity. The current version of PHP is 7.3 is released by official team on November 2017. Client side, client server architecture. So in the evolution of network architecture, various critical related problem networks related problem get resolved by client server architecture model. The client server architecture introduced introduces application sharing mechanism between two different hardware systems over the network, which means internet or internal. In 1990s, internet was emerged in the computer network field. The main objective of internet implies that an application is shared by more than one hardware, either it could be a server or a client machine. So internet implies that an application is shared by more than one hardware, either it could be server or it can be client machine. Okay, so if you want to create a client server application, then some application must be installed in your client side, as well as some application must be installed in your server side. Okay, so this is known as client client architecture or client server architecture. The the server is a highly performance hardware machine. It could run more than one application concurrently. The client is a separate hardware machine which is connected with the server in the network. It could send the request and receive the response from the server hardware. The server and client is also called as service provider and service requester respectively. Okay, so the server is service provider and the client is service requester. So the client will ask for some data or ask for some services. The server will provide services or data which is requested by the client. So here you can see that this is the client side or client server architecture model. Okay, so here at the bottom you can see that two clients are available, so it is connected to the database server through a network. Okay, so this will request some data to the database server, and the database server will search the database and responds that data to the client through the network. So this is client server architecture. So next here you can see that different types of client server architecture model. Okay, client server architecture model shown in above figure 4.2 classified into three types as follows. Okay, single tier, two tier, and multi or three tier architecture. Okay, so single tier architecture, uh, this architecture is used for server accessed for the server accessed by client. The client application runs inside the server machine itself. So it acts as a single layer interact as in figure 4.3. So the client side script will also run in server side language or server side scripting language. So this client will act as a requester. It will all the actions that are done in single tier is done in server side. No actions are done in client side scripting language. Okay, so now two tier. So this architecture is used for server accessed by client as two layer interaction, such as client layer in tier 1 and server layer in tier 2. So which means that the client side will have some scripting and server side will also have some scripting. So this is two tier and three tier. This architecture is used for the server accessed by client through more than one layer of interaction. The programmer could decide the count of business logic layer according to the software requirements. This is the reason this model is also known as multi-tier architecture, as shown in figure 4.5. So this client will access some application server. That application server will access some database server. Okay, so here three main activities is done here. So in all the three all the three hardwares, applications are installed. Okay, so in client side there will be some browser or some application will be there, and application server there will be some actions. If this request comes, then this action must be done. So this kind of actions will be installed or programmed in application server. So all the data are stored in database server. Okay, so mostly we'll be using two-tier architecture, but if the application is too large and the data is too large, then we'll be using three-tier architecture or multi-tier architecture. So most of the server side scripting languages are worked on only on any one of the client side architecture model. Web server is a software which runs in server hardware. It takes the responsibility for completion of execution and the server side scripting language. So this most of the work is done in server side hardware. So this server side scripting is installed in server so that it can be accessed only in server module. Next is server side scripting language. So web server languages are classified into two types: client side and server side scripting language. PHP is completely different from client side scripting languages like JavaScript. The PHP code entirely executes on web server, which is installed in remote machine, and it is generating HTML code which sends the request to the user. The user receives the HTML code and see the website content by internet browser. In this computer or laptop, PHP also supports OOPS. OOPS means Object-Oriented Programming Concept. This application, it is an application to implement all OOPS features such as class, objects, inheritance, etc. The actions is shown in figure 4.6. So as you can see there, the web applications are web application scripting language are divided into two parts: server side scripting language and client side scripting language. So this client side scripting language will have some request to the server side scripting. So the server side receives the request and respond it by with HTML code. So this HTML code will be seen in the uh, client side client side client side screen or client side output, so that it can also implement OOPS programming language, OOPS concepts, okay, object oriented programming languages like class, inheritance, and objects, something like that. Okay, so this will finish the class today. We'll see the rest of the things in the next class. Thank you, students.